It was past midnight at a small diner off Route 66, the kind of place where tired truckers and lost souls found temporary peace under the humming neon lights. The rain tapped against the glass, painting the world outside in streaks of silver. Inside, a young waitress named Lena wiped down the counter, her hands trembling slightly, though not from exhaustion. Her eyes flicked again and again toward the door, toward the man in the dark corner booth who hadn't stopped staring at her since she clocked in. His greasy hair hung in his face, his cigarette burned slow and mean, and each time she passed by, she could feel his eyes crawling across her back. She was only 21, barely surviving on tips, working double shifts just to pay rent on a one-room apartment that smelled of wet plaster and loneliness. But tonight, something was different. The stranger wasn't just watching her. He was waiting for something. As she carried a tray of coffee toward a group of bikers sitting near the window, big, rough men in black leather vests marked with the emblem of the Hells Angels, her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. The tallest of them, a man with a gray beard and a heavy stare, caught her eye. His name patch read Reaper. She leaned in close, pretending to refill his cup, and whispered, voice cracking under the weight of her fear, "Please, he won't stop following me." Hey everyone, before we go further, if you love powerful, emotional true stories that restore faith in humanity, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to Kindness Universe. Your support helps us share more stories that touch hearts around the world. Reaper froze mid-motion. The entire table went quiet. The clinking of silverware, the low hum of the jukebox, everything seemed to fade. He looked over Lena's shoulder, his storm gray eyes locking onto the man in the booth. "Which one?" he asked in a low, even tone. Lena tilted her head just slightly. "That one. He's been outside the diner for days now. I told the manager, but he said it's not his problem." Reaper nodded slowly, set down his cup, and reached into his jacket for his wallet. He pulled out a 50 and slipped it under his saucer. "Go to the back room," he said quietly. "Now." Her breath hitched. "What are you going to do?" He gave a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Make sure he never follows you again." Lena disappeared through the kitchen door just as Reaper rose from his seat. The diner's air grew heavy. You could feel something about to break. His brothers followed his lead, standing one by one, silent, deliberate. The other customers watched uneasily as the angels surrounded the corner booth. The stalker looked up, smirking. "What, you boys lost?" Reaper leaned forward. "You been watching that girl?" "Maybe I have," the man sneered. "She's got a nice face. You her daddy or something?" Reaper didn't answer. He simply reached down, grabbed the man's wrist, and twisted it until the cigarette dropped from his fingers and rolled across the table. "You see that angel patch?" he said, voice like gravel. "It means we protect the innocent. So here's your choice. You walk out that door and never come back, or I make sure you crawl out." The man's smirk vanished. He looked at the others, all watching him, cold and unmoving. In that moment, he realized he was outnumbered, outmatched, and in the presence of men who didn't bluff. I was just kidding, man," he stammered, grabbing his coat. "Didn't mean nothing." "Walk," Reaper said. The man bolted for the door, the bell above it jingling sharply before silence filled the diner once more. When Lena returned a few minutes later, Reaper was back in his booth sipping coffee like nothing had happened. "Is he gone?" she whispered. "Yeah," Reaper replied, not looking up. "You're safe now." She hesitated, then sat down across from him. "Why did you help me?" Reaper shrugged. "You asked." Her eyes filled with tears. "Nobody ever listens. The police said there's nothing they can do unless he hurts me first." He finally looked at her then, really looked. "That's the problem with this world," he said. "Too many people wait until it's too late." As the night went on, the storm outside deepened. Reaper and his crew stayed until closing, making sure the parking lot was clear before they let Lena leave. They even followed her car halfway home, their headlights shining behind her like guardian angels made of steel and thunder. Over the next few weeks, Reaper checked in every few nights. Sometimes he'd just order coffee and sit quietly. Other times he'd drop off small things, a tire pressure gauge for her old car, a set of pepper spray, or a ride home when her shift ended too late. He never crossed a line, never flirted, never made her feel small. He was rough, sure. A man who had seen the worst of humanity. But beneath the scars and tattoos was a heart that still believed in protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. One night, after closing, Lena finally asked, "Why do you care so much? You don't even know me." Reaper looked down at his cup, because once, he said, voice barely above a whisper, "Someone like me didn't listen soon enough. My little sister, she needed help. I didn't get there in time." Lena's eyes softened. She didn't need to hear more. Some wounds never close. They just find new ways to heal. Weeks turned into months. Lena started smiling again, finding confidence where fear used to live. The man never came back. Word must have spread, and nobody dared mess with a girl watched over by the angels. One evening, the diner held a charity event for struggling single mothers. Lena had organized it herself, baking pies, setting up tables, convincing her boss to donate part of the night's earnings. She was nervous, overwhelmed, but determined to make it work. Halfway through the night, she looked up, and there was Reaper standing at the door, his massive frame filling the entrance, holding a bouquet of cheap supermarket flowers. "Thought you might need a hand," he said. Lena laughed, tears sparkling in her eyes. "Always do." He stayed the whole night, washing dishes, serving food, quietly slipping a wad of cash into the donation jar when nobody was looking. When it was over, Lena gave him a hug. "Thank you, Reaper," she whispered. "For everything." He smiled faintly. "You don't owe me thanks, sweetheart. Just promise me something. When someone else's scared voice reaches you someday, listen." If this story touched your heart, please take a second to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Universe. Every click helps us share more real stories of courage, compassion, and unexpected kindness. Years later, Lena owned that same diner. She'd bought it when the old manager retired. Above the counter hung a small photograph, a black and white picture of a Hell's Angel standing beside his motorcycle, his gray beard blowing in the wind. Underneath it, a brass plaque read, "In memory of Reaper, protector, friend, and the angel who listened." Whenever a scared soul came through those doors, Lena made sure they left with something stronger than food: hope. Because sometimes, the loudest acts of kindness come from the quietest moments, and the toughest hearts hide the softest souls.